I hear y'all on Twitter. I listen to y'all on Twitter. Sometimes I argue with y'all on Twitter, but sometimes y'all be saying some arguable stuff. But one thing I've heard on Twitter is y'all want me to bring somebody back onto the channel. Y'all want me to have a conversation about the offense, the defense, the Cleveland Browns. Let's just talk Cleveland Browns, right? Like, I'm not going to act like there's news right now. But what we can do is bring the homeboy in and talk with him. And that's what I'm doing today. So, G, welcome back, man. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's off season. Listen. See, this is a great thing about it, man. We heard people been talking about end too. Gbush, man, what's going on? I know you're doing some stuff, man. When you and Quincy back in the booth, I'm like, man, okay, I'm gonna holler at my boy Gbush. This is me again. When you and Quincy getting back together, I said, man, we gonna get it together. By the way, I need Quincy to come on my radio show this weekend too. I don't know what he's doing. I talked 15 minutes beforehand, so I'll get with him off the books.
This is how they get you. See, this is how they get you.
See, look, right here. Look. But no, man.
He waited till he was on the air. We talked 20 minutes off the air. He waited till you gonna be on my show. I guess. Yeah.
I guess now. You know your show early as hell, dog. What you do? I'm trying to sleep on the weekend. Talk about your show.
Nah, you good. But as much as it is that isn't really new to talk about, I feel like there's a lot that we have not talked about with this. I don't think we've gotten together since this whole Watson trade situation, new quarterback, Baker Mayfield done got shipped out of here. What do you want to hit on first, man? Ed, you're the guest. You get to choose.
All right, so here's what we're going to do, man. So obviously, let's talk about, we'll put to bed the Baker stuff first and foremost. Were you as upset, not as upset, were you as confused why everybody could not understand why it was that Baker Mayfield was not going to play any more snaps for the Cleveland Browns? It just seemed like, the letter went out and on Twitter, and he kind of just said what he said, and he said it's the better for us to split, and he did the whole podcast thing, and obviously the Browns had said what they were going to say, but I was just so confused, Q, about national people. Well, Baker, it's mutually beneficial. Baker can resurrect his career, and at the same time, the Cleveland Browns give themselves the best chance to win. And I'm like, no, they told themselves that their best chance to win was moving Baker, and that he's never playing again. Were you confused by that? Did you get that a lot over here?
Oh yeah. I heard it, but it was one of those things. And look, I got a lot of flack when I did this at the end of the season, but
yes, I remember.
I remember when he told everybody in the press conference after the Pittsburgh game, right? Hey, I'm going to talk to my agent and my wife about my future and if I should play again. And then he sat out week 17, and it was notable that Myles Garrett had an injury in week 16, played week 17. Nick Chubb had an injury in week 16. All the notable starters that, quite frankly, are better players at their position than Baker Mayfield played, but Baker did not. Now, some people would deem that quitting on the team. Those same people who would not call that quitting on the team are also, ironically, the people who said Odell quit on the team when he literally did the exact same thing, right? Like to a point, right? So when he did that, I felt like there was a point of no return in that action of you can't bring back Kevin Stefanski and Baker Mayfield. You can't bring back this same core and Baker Mayfield. So it's going to be a choice of one or the other. And at this point, where we were at the end of the season, I was like, it's clear. They're going to keep Kevin over Baker. Baker's in his last year. He looked terrible this year. It wasn't just the labrum, as much as people want to make it seem like that. And, it was just like, it was time. It felt like time. Like, it felt like we've had 4 years, 2 years where just the expectation, 3 years where the expectations were high. You've not delivered on 2 of them. We've already gotten rid of most of this core. It looked like Jarvis was gone. It looked like a wrap for this whole Baker Mayfield experiment. And I took so much flack. How could you jump off ship so early? I'm just telling y'all what I see. When he did that, when he did that, he pretty much put his career as a Cleveland Brown in jeopardy, because you can't really go back to that. You can't really return the coach and the player if he's not going to involve the coach with a decision to play, right? And then he kind of threw the coach under the bus because remember what the whole storyline was, even though it was not true. And again, I'll hit on this one first, right? The storyline was, the coaching staff's making Baker Mayfield play. So when you go on a press conference and say, I'm not involved in the team at all, I'm going to decide myself, and then you don't play the next week, now you're making it seem like the coaching staff was in control of that. And again, for everybody who feels like Kevin Stefanski should have held him back, okay, if you feel like Kevin Stefanski's responsibility is to tell a grown man when he should and should not play football, like a high school kid, like that's what we do with high school kids, that's what we do with college kids, that's what we do with Power 6 kids, then you can't be surprised when an adult in the room comes up because he's not acting like an adult, right?
And think about this, QC. Remember this too. Everybody said, you know what? They're sabotaging him because they should have took him out. They're sabotaging him.
And he was feeding into that.
Right. He's just setting him up for it. And then think about it like this. Remember the Jay Glazer interview? I'm like, there's a lot of things going on in the locker room that people don't know about. He said this at the end of the Lions game, right, where he blamed the coach. He consistently threw the coaching staff under the bus last year. He then chose to not consider the team when he played his last game. That was it. I felt like at that point, it was a wrap. It would take either Kevin Stefanski getting fired for Baker Mayfield to come back or Baker Mayfield being gone. But one of those two things I felt like was going to happen. I felt like there was maybe a slim chance that he gets some serious competition in camp this year, right? But at that point, Baker Mayfield's guaranteed being the starter that year, that was a wrap. That was a wrap. I'm going to give you an exclusive. I don't think I really told nobody this. I'm not a news breaking guy. I don't break news. You know, some people, I'm an opinion person. I don't break news. I don't have sources. I used to say I'm the least source guy in the game. But after the Pittsburgh game, I was reached out to by a member, a member of somebody's camp, prominent. When I say prominent, I mean it's kind of prominent. And they said under no circumstances would Baker Mayfield be back with the Cleveland Browns if Browns wanted this person to be back with the team. They also told me that Jadeveon Clowney was not resigning here, was not resigning with the Browns if Baker Mayfield was the quarterback. Now, I sat on it and was like, I told a couple people, say, listen, it's kind of crazy. I had to verify it was true. I reached out to Mary Kay Cabot and say, hey, do you know this person? Blah, blah, blah. She said, I've talked to that person too. That's the decent source. These two sources said pretty much after the Odell Beckham Jr. thing, half the locker room was already gone. They eventually lost Jarvis in that whole situation as well. And eventually they offered Jarvis Landry more money to come back here, but it was too far gone after the whole Baker situation. And so I looked at it like this. I took a look at it and I said, there's no way Baker could be back with this squad. And the deaf silence that you heard from the locker room while this was going on, nobody came to his aid. Nobody said, hey, Baker's doing this for the city. Baker should be the quarterback again. None of that. And you can always tell when somebody got somebody or not. I mean, in the words of Terrell Owens, that's my quarterback. That's my quarterback right there. Ain't nobody do that. They're just like, okay, cool. Let's wrap. Let's move to so we talked about Baker a little bit. How did your mind change? What was your first thought when you heard about Deshaun Watson in the beginning? What is your first thought?
It was kind of, there's football brain and then there's me brain. And me brain was like, like this is a rough situation to walk into, right? Because of everything he's surrounded with. Football brain was like, nah, but he gonna be good though. But you know, it's just like, all right, we got to figure out. Like I'm still at that point to where I'm hesitant on getting super excited about it because one, I don't know what his long-term prospects are going to be with this team because I don't know what the start of it's going to look like. And also got to make sure that if this alleged problem was a problem, right? You know, if what they're saying is true, is this going to pop up again? Is this going to be something that shortens his NFL career? Because, you know, I just remember Josh Gordon seeing how his vices ruined his NFL career. So, I don't want to see the same thing happen to that, or the Browns mortgage their future for a guy who could. So we'll see what happens there, but also you have to leverage this with, hey, was this a better bet player-wise, like on the field-wise, of you getting a better player for more time than what you already had? And the answer is yes. So whether it works out or not, I still think it's worth it to take the chance. It's not a chance that I would have had the gumption to take. I'm going to be real. This took some major gumption. I wasn't advocating for it, but, they went out and did it. We'll see how it turns out. But, we'll see. That was what my thoughts were on that.
So when they went out and tried to trade for Deshaun Watson, and he didn't come. He said we got dropped out of the running. I was just like, oh, okay, well, go back to Baker, whatever, figure out what he got in the fifth year. I'm ready to do articles about what the fifth year is.
That's what I wasn't on. Even when Deshaun Watson said he was out, I was like, I still would rather go after Jameis or Marcus or Jacoby, just because I want a serious competitor in there. I didn't want to just default to, we're going to roll with Baker Mayfield. That's been my thing all along. They could not go back to, we're just going to roll with Baker Mayfield for a year. They had to come with something else. So I was happy they made a move ultimately.
I think what happened with that is, and this is the reason my thought process is going down this little road, is you said in first you were a little skeptical. You're like, I don't know if I could have pulled the trigger, given up what they gave, and I don't know the future. Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski and Jimmy and D. Haslam said the same thing. I think in the beginning they were like, you know what, he turned this down, cool, and they had to turn around and go back and look at what they had in the cupboard. And they said, nah, bro, this is... And then you couple that with the fact that Joe Burrow in 2 years, with a coach that was going to get fired, with no offensive line, and Jamar Chase drafted in the first round, they go to the Super Bowl. See, they traded places with you. We thought we were on the way. That was what we were supposed to do. And when you had to come back now and look and say, we didn't upgrade at quarterback. We got Baker Mayfield. I mean, we talk about his fifth-year option. You look at the AFC. There is no way the Cleveland Browns could compete with Mahomes, with Herbert, with Allen, with Burrow, Lamar Jackson. Then Russell Wilson went to Denver. And all Derek Carr does is throw for 4,000 yards every single year. So when you look at that gauntlet, it's kind of like, well, damn it, we might want to go call Deshaun back up and see if we can get him back on the phone, because other than that, what are you left with? Like you said, you got to go find another quarterback, because you can't just ride with Baker.